This next map took me, again, about a half an hour to design. This is actually a really cool map. Once I explain it to you, you're going to understand why it's such a great map. First of all, there's a river, there's a gorge going through the middle. We've got some bridges. There's a rail bridge and a traffic bridge. And we've got elevated areas. And the idea for this map is that everybody has a chance to snipe. There's going to be a lot of interesting features here. First of all, each team would have one side of the map. So the team that has this side, they can access their elevated hill from behind. You know, there's an access area behind here that's easy to climb where they won't get shot over here on the left. So they can drive up over here and get into the elevated area where these houses are. They got a few objects to hide behind, and they've got some elevation. I also made it over here. I made it so that it's a little bit more difficult to cross over here, just to make it a little bit more challenging. The other side has the same thing, but it was done differently. If you look at this side, you'll notice that there is, on the right side here, you can see that the surface is lower than the peak, so you can actually drive on the outside of the map at an elevated area, pick any position you want, and you don't have to worry about getting shot along the way. I put some houses at the top of these cliffs. Some of them are in just random areas, but you'll see them over on the other side also. And obviously those are to hide behind. I'll show you some on the other side. You can see off in the distance all these tall objects are houses or other buildings. So there's an example of one. Somebody could hide behind that house. So we've got some forest area in the lower levels. And in terms of the bridges, each bridge leads to a small strip that has a couple buildings. You got some on that side. And you've got some over here. You've got a couple of buildings over here. There's some overlooking the cliff. And we've got a little neighborhood over here. So people have some things to hide behind. You can see it's a pretty steep gorge, but there's also a path over here on the south where you can just drive right across here. So if you want to, you could cross over the river, go around the south end, and use it as a way to flank the enemy if you don't want to go across the bridge. So I'm going to show you a few different perspectives so you can see what it looks like. It'll rotate around. Obviously, this map was intended so that everybody would have a chance to snipe. And it is a bridge map, so if you want to go across the bridge, you have to have a lot of skill, or you have to have a fast tank. There's a little bit of protection to guard the bridge. And we've got the cross over here in the south for tanks that want to do the flank maneuver. So I'm actually really proud of this map. I think it's really good. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I'm going to show you where the spawn would be. I imagine that one of the spawns would be over here, and that perhaps the other spawn could be over here, or, you know, it could be done any number of ways. There could be a spawn here, there could be one over here. Yeah, maybe you could put like a spawn over here in the back side, and then one over here in the opposite corner, or you could do the reverse and put one over here in that corner and put one over here in this area. This is a map that I designed, which could be used as a premise for games like World of Tanks. It took me about a half an hour to make the map. The idea behind this map was I wanted to design a map where you had multiple pathways that you could travel so that it would be hard to predict which way you're coming from. So the way I did it was I made a pathway here on the outside. I'm going to point to it right here on the far right with the mouse pointer. And that pathway is obviously for tanks that over here in the green. You know, they could be for heavy tanks. They could be for any tank that you want. There's a second path which goes up through here, and it goes up to an upper level. There's a third path which comes up through here, which also goes to the upper level. So down below you've got a fourth pathway which goes along here, and you've also got the inside along the river. And then you've got a fifth pathway which is on this side, which probably would be used for faster tanks, and also over here. And then you've got another raised pathway over here, which is pathway number 6, and then you would have a seventh one, which would be on here on the outside, which I did not implement yet. So I came up with, on this map, around 7 different ways that you could travel from one side to the other. And by doing so, it's very hard to predict where the enemy is going to be coming from, which adds an element to the game that it currently lacks. So part of my design is that I left some areas open, such as this grassy area over here, and there's going to be a matching one on the other side, which is over here. And this would be a good sniping spot. You know, a tank could sit in this area and snipe across the map. Have access to a lot of the map just by sitting here where all these trees are. And also, based on the design, it's very open, so you can actually snipe from anywhere you want on the upper level. Right here we have one of the features, which is a crossover, this road right here, which crosses over from the upper level to the lower level, which is on the west side. I put some buildings. You can see the buildings along the road. I'm going to zoom in on one of them. Very slow zoom. So the idea for this building is that there are people that would like an object like this to break up the distance. So you can't really shoot across the field. So you've got these buildings to block anything that goes across the open field here, and also something to hide behind. There's 2 bridges, and for both of them you actually have to go around the block in order to get on the bridge, which is part of the design. There's actually a railway over here and a wider road. So no matter how you get on or off the bridge, you have to go around the block, which I think is pretty cool. It makes things a little bit more challenging, a little bit more fun. This is a shot of the upper level, and you can see that there's a grass area. And one of the things that I did was the connecting roads are not straight across. So if you want to go east to west or west to east, you have to travel on a little bit of a zigzag, which again makes the game a little bit more challenging and more fun. So this side is a little bit different. The access road to get up onto the hill is over here on the left. So it's actually easier to get down. I mean, if you permitted players to come down the hill. And I guess I would make it so that they could go up the hill also, because you do want to make it easy for players to access it in both directions. So this other side is a little bit different. I just made a road that went up the side here. I didn't finish the detail. I didn't think it was really necessary. But obviously, there's more than one way to get up the hill. You can either just drive up the hill or take the road with the bridge. So I had the idea that there would be a spawn point over here where the blue star is. I made a little field where vehicles could park. They could also spawn up here, of course. I thought this was a pretty good spot. And then the other idea I had was either up here on the upper right or in this lower area, but it would probably have to be up here on the upper right. Obviously, this is a city map. It took me about a half an hour to design it. I didn't lay all the roads out the way they should be. They're just kind of long roads. You can see I just made long roads going across. Up here on the left side, you can see that they're not perfectly straight. There's some zigzagging over there. But I mean, the same thing could be done on the rest of the map. I just did it to finish it real quick to see if I could finish the premise. And again, the premise is to make a map where there were multiple pathways so you could not predict the way the enemy was coming. So if you're playing in a heavy tank, you have lots of choices which way to go, and it doesn't exist on the other maps. On the other maps, they're very predictable. They all tend to go to the same place. So that's the reason why I decided to design it. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. This is the first map that I designed, and it's somewhat of a simple design, which I will explain. It's going to actually make a lot of sense. I know it's difficult to understand the way it is right now. There is a gap in the middle, which is a highway. This is an open area. Tanks can move quickly through the middle of the map. It includes rail and 2 lanes, and there are 3 bridges that are overpasses. And then you've got parallel roads, and these parallel roads are where the buildings are. The buildings are along these parallel roads. And then you've got over here, there is an elevated mound. And this mound obviously is a sniping position. And then on the other side, there's a lake, which is right over here. And the lake has its advantages also because you can also snipe from this part of the lake, for example, for anybody that tries to come across on this side. So it's a very simple design. It's a very small map. The ground is intended to be green. I made a mistake when I did the ground. I don't know how to correct it. It does have a mixture of buildings. I don't think it's important if they're big buildings or not. But I think it's going to be a fun map. I think it would be great to play on. And I think it's good for all skill levels. If you have any questions about it, please post below. This is the second map that I designed. This one also took about a half an hour. Every map that I designed took approximately a half an hour. So this one has a river with 3 bridges going across. This one also has a rail bridge. There's 2 elevated positions on either side. And the terrain is supposed to be green, but I made a mistake that I don't know how to correct, which is why it's not the correct color. And I put solid objects such as buildings over here where you have to cross the bridge. So if you want to cross the bridge, you have something to hide behind. And you have a defense point also. The houses on this map are all small houses. There's a few large buildings, as you can see, but not that many. This neighborhood over here is lower than the neighborhood to the right, which is right here. So we have an elevated neighborhood, which can allow the team to shoot across the middle. On this side, I did not elevate the neighborhood, but obviously it should match the other side to make it equal and fair. I mean, you would elevate the neighborhood that I'm highlighting right here. And here's the last bridge. So it's a very simple map. I think it would work very well. Very easy to design. I'm going to go over it again. We've got 3 bridges with the river. We've got 2 mounds for sniping for tanks that like to do that. And we've got a neighborhood area for tanks that need to hide behind buildings, one of which is elevated a little bit. And it should be elevated, obviously, on the other side.